Hello. All right. So we're going to try spinning some stuff. All right. Hide this check with pocket snakes. So I've got my Kevlar yarn. I didn't have sound before. And now I have the sound turned on. So this is how I measure to make a 8-strand cracker. And then tie the two ends together. So this is 36-pound Kevlar yarn. And I think I've got a little bit better camera angle. So we're going to try spinning some crackers again. So part of the trick to this is you keep pulling down as you spin this. And you want to spin it until it becomes difficult to spin, or when the angle crosses some boundary. And so when it hits a certain point, if you want your amount of spin to be consistent, you can count the rotations, or you can look at a distant point and find where you've reached a boundary. So I spun it left, and it's trying to spin it on the crook to the right. So I'm going to spin it the other direction that it wants to spin until I've overspun it. And then I seat it with extra pressure and let it unspin. And this makes a fairly consistent lay for the cracker. And I measure from the joint over the top of the tip of my thumb. And that gives me a consistent length for the feather. And then while I'm pinching the thing so it doesn't unravel, I tie a half hitch against the stem, which is the smallest knot that will prevent it from unraveling when you're using the cracker. Then you take a bundle from the second side of the feather and tie a half hitch against the stem on that side. And the reason I use this shape is this crook that I came up with holds the loop on the cracker open. And I made it the size of the straw. That way I can slide this down onto the straw. And that does two things. One, it keeps the eye open so it doesn't spin closed. And you're not fighting it when you install the cracker because it's a tight spun cracker. And two, you can stick the end of your falls in and pull it off right onto the end of your falls. So it makes it easier to install on the end of your whip. So I'm going to measure and cut. This is about 6 inches. And a cubit, so there's 6 feet. And then another 6 inches. So it's about 2 meters. You tie the ends together. There's just an overhand stopper knot. And this is one loop that's 2 meters long, but it ends up in a loop that is easy to put on the hook. This hook is made from a coat hanger wire. And it's got a really narrow pinch in it for holding the string. And the spinning hook is just got a little hook. And I can't see the camera while I'm doing this, so I can't really, I can see if you chat me, I've got it open so I can reply, but I can't see how many people are watching, but hello, if anybody's watching this. At least I've got sound now. And so these crackers, once they're spun, are 1.6 millimeters, or 1.5 millimeters, roughly. It's very hard to measure this when you've got, because it's spun and it's squishy, but they're about 1.5 millimeters, 1.6 millimeters. This is what I call a size 8 general cracker. It's the right size for most whips. And with the measuring that I use, you have roughly a 9-inch cracker, 8.5 to 9-inch cracker. It's about a hand span. You get longer than that, and you'll tie a lot more knots in your cracker. Just from throwing it, and it'll get tangled up more often. And the half hitch against the stem is kind of an overhand knot. Untwist it a little bit to get it on there. You can see how consistent those crackers are. They're a little bit different, but that's about as consistent as I can make it, because my measuring is never perfect, but they are hand spun. during the spinning process, this shortens by about the width of your fingers. It's about 3 inches. And then when you trim off the loops, this is the waste from each cracker. So it's just the pieces that end up a little long where you want it. And if you want a picture, like I scanned these tools, I can send you a picture of the exact shape I use, but you can make your own spinning tools like this crook with a pair of needle nose pliers and like coat hanger wire. It does fine. Coat hanger wire works well, but I made these out of musical wire. And the reason I did was I got tired of bending the spinning hook and crook back into shape. There's lots of ways to spin these. This is just how I found to make the most consistent crackers with a tighter lay. I've got 4. I'm making a 10-pack here. Now, if you don't have electrician scissors, cutting Kevlar is a pain, but you can also use a scalpel, which cuts it cleanly. If you guys have any questions, you can message me in the messaging, and I'll try and read them and respond verbally. Probably. I don't think I'm going to try typing while I'm spinning. There's 5. So that's 6. just like that. I'm going to have to run. Somebody's calling me for help, so. But at least this one has sound so I can describe what I'm doing and the materials I'm using. And but the reason I throw 2 half hitches to stop the feather is largely the knot is unobtrusive. So if you tie a figure-8 knot, it makes a nice knot. The problem is if the whip hits you, it's going to take a chunk out of you. So this is the smallest knot I can tie that'll keep it from unraveling. And it's just 2 half hitches. And then if you want a bigger knot, you can always add it, but at least to start with, it's got the ability to not unravel. Thank you for joining me.